The other day, I was standing outside for recess duty, and one of my coworkers asked me, how do I start a teacher business? You see, the day before, I had shared how I started off my business by selling TPT products during COVID. And then I went on to start creating courses online for new and first year teachers. And then I started coaching one-on-one clients around the world that were teachers around the world. And she started asking me, how do I do that? How do I start my teacher business? Now, this was such a great question that I really wanted to share my answer here on the community. So I wanted to create a four-part series about creating your teacher business. So this will be part one to creating your very first teacher business. And in this week's content, we are going to be talking about how to start your teacher business. So, with that being said, let's dive in. Hey, teacher bestie, my name's Helena, and I'm the creator of the Present Teacher Podcast. I'm a first year teacher coach, and in this podcast, you are going to learn everything from simple, actionable classroom management, social emotional learning, and teacher wellness strategies. You know that impact you want to make in the classroom? Well, we're going to make it happen here. Now, a little bit about me if you're new here. Hi, my name's Helena, the creator of The Present Teacher, and I've been around for around when COVID started. You see, the year that COVID started, I had just started. I was in my second, third year of teaching, and I had finally figured out systems to get me to consistently leave at contract time. And what I found was this left me a lot of free time. I was bored. I was looking for ways to kind of do other things other than teaching. And it was around this time that COVID happened, and I started to see this gap between teachers and the digital resources they had online to help them teach. So I got this brilliant idea to start my very own teacher business. Now, I came up with the present teacher idea because my idea is I want to help new and first year teachers be in the moment with their students and to take stuff off their plate so they can be in the moment and not have to worry about that never-ending to-do list. And so the present teacher was born in 2020. And so from there, I started sharing resources, TPT resources online. After doing that for a couple of years and seeing some income coming in, I mostly started selling kindergarten digital products. I even made my very own clip art, which looking back now is kind of cute. And after I had this TPT store for a while, I then decided to dive into courses. I wanted to really narrow down and dive into helping new and first year teachers with their teacher business so that way they can show up thriving in the classroom and in life. And I really wanted to help them bridge the gap between feeling burned out and debating whether or not to leave their first couple of years of teaching to being in a place where I am, where they have so much free time that they can dedicate it to things that they love, like this community I have built online. So that's when I started diving into courses. I started selling the Present Teacher Circle, Classroom Kickstart, Land Your Dream Job. Even went as far as started coaching one-on-one clients. So that's a little bit background about me. So with my background in mind, here's the big question. Should you start a teacher business? Here are some things to consider if you are contemplating whether or not you want to start a teacher business. And the main thing is, what do you want to do? Because the reality is, I wouldn't have started the present teacher if I didn't have the passion, the drive, and the desire to create it. If someone told me I should create a business, I probably wouldn't have been as dedicated as me personally just wanting to do it. And my thoughts are your desires are safe guidance, meaning whatever you desire to do, that's a nudge from God, the universe, whatever you believe in, showing you how to get closer to that end goal you're kind of going for. So, with that in mind, what do you want to do? If you want to create a teacher business, then that's a clear sign that you absolutely should, in my personal opinion. Despite what you might find online, I believe that anyone who wants to create a teacher business very much has the right to do so, and I think it's a great idea for you to do. So, one thing that I want to ask you is if no one could be mad at you, if nobody was going to judge you, if nobody even knew about it, and you could just magically help anybody in the world, who would you help? Who would you want to spend your days with? Who would you want to, talk to online? Who would you want to send emails to? Who do you want to help? Do you want to help maybe a completely different industry? Like, I don't know, accounting. Do you want to take on like a baking business where you start baking on the side? Or do you want to help teachers? And if it's teachers, what kinds of teachers? Are you passionate about second language learners? Are you passionate about, I don't know, students who are needing some support with disruptive behavior in an elementary setting? Are you passionate about helping high school math teachers? Who is it that you're excited to help? And you could literally spend all day talking to them and they feel like your best friends. When I thought of this question, the first answer I came up with was new and first year teachers. My first year of teaching, I honestly contemplated quitting in December, even though I had a master's program, just because the sheer volume and expectations of teachers. And so, what I wanted to do is I really wanted to be that mentor and to really help first and new teachers in the teaching world in ways that I never really got. And also, I really wanted to help them not make the same mistakes or to get to where I finally ended up a little bit faster. I wanted to be that person. And also, whenever I had and a great way to think about this is think of a typical day and things that excite you. So for me, whenever I have a student teacher or someone coming to observe me, I love it. I love when my coworkers who are newer are asking me classroom management questions about how I'm planning, 4 weeks out in advance. I love doing that. So I knew this was kind of where my personal niche or my personal idea of who I wanted to help was going to be. It was helping new and first year teachers, so ideally, teachers who are maybe 5 years younger than me. Um, and that was really where the present teacher started. So coming back to the question, if no one could be mad at you and no one was going to judge you, who would you want to help? What would you do? So now that we talked about should you start a teacher business, let's talk about what should your business be about. Now, you're going to find as you go down the teacher business world, this thing called a niche. Now, a niche is someone or something that you want to help in your business. So, for example, new and first year teachers is my niche. In the business world, if I wanted to help new business accountants start their own business, that would be it. If I wanted to help first-time moms with healthy living, that would be my niche. So ideally, you're thinking of who do you want to help? And the big mindset shift from kind of the mainstream um, way of thinking of a niche. So often I hear people talk about their content pillars, but the more that you lean into what your content pillars are, the three main things you're going to talk about. So when I started, I had business coaches or teacher business coaches who told me, you need a niche and you can only talk about this one thing for the rest of your life, and you can only talk about these three content pillars and name them and list them. Well, yes, that might have been helpful for me to get clear on which areas I wanted to help with. I quickly realized that I am my niche. I'm going to have different interests, and that is totally fine. But I made sure that it was kind of related to the underarching umbrella. So, for example, I help new and first year teachers. My three main niches when I started was classroom management, lesson planning, and organization. But along the way, I found that new and first year teachers actually need help with getting their first job. So I kind of branched off to that direction. And then I quickly realized that teachers are going to need help with setting up their classroom for the first time. So I branched into that. And so, really, there's a lot of different topics you can talk about, and there's nothing wrong with that. The idea is you kind of want to stick with that. Now, I don't typically, for example, on my blog or on my email, if I sent my present teachers community I don't know, a blog or an email about what I ate that week and my whole meal plan, they might be interested because it's helping build a personal relationship, but they're going to quickly wonder why I'm sending them this when they're specifically following me to learn how to thrive as a new and first year teacher. So, with all that being said, it's good idea to get clear on who you want to help, and that's the big one. Who do you want to help, and what different areas do you want to help them with? So another great example, there might be some things in your niche or in, who you want to help that you don't actually want to talk about. So for example, right now in this part of my journey, I personally don't create content for student teachers. It's not that I don't like student teachers, it's just not where my passion is. And I know there's some other amazing coaches out there for student teachers, but it's not what I'm passionate about, and that's okay. I would rather focus on things like classroom management, landing your job, stuff like that, instead of going towards that area. So it's totally fine to have areas that you do want and don't want. So with that being in mind, here are some questions to think about in your journal. Number one, who do you help? If nobody could be mad at you and you couldn't get in trouble, who would you want to help? Who would you want to hang out with all day? And then what are some areas you would like to help them with? What are some things that excite you if your coworkers ask you for help, or your family or your friends? Or if it's more of a product base, maybe it's making jewelry. Who do you want to create jewelry for? And then what kind of materials do you want to? But what are some things you enjoy helping that person with? Or what are some supplies you enjoy creating with if you are going to be a product based? And then the third thing is, what are some areas that you don't necessarily want to help with them right now? And it's perfectly fine to expand later. Like I said, right now in my journey, I don't particularly have a passion for helping student teachers. That's not to say I won't in the future, but you can branch out as you go. So, with that being said, I want to give you a quick story on some limiting beliefs that might come up for you as we're talking about who you can help, what areas do you want to help them with, and which areas do you not want to help them with. So, the first thing is make sure to listen to your desires before you take in any content or any advice from anybody online, myself included. What I mean is, if that advice feels icky to you and it makes you just kind of go within yourself and it doesn't make you excited, then I highly recommend you don't follow it, and here's why. So, this is a true story. When I started my business in early 2020 around COVID, I wanted to do what I was doing now. I wanted to help new teachers with getting their first job, setting up their classrooms, organizing their classrooms, classroom management, leaving consistently at contract time. But at the time, one of the very close teacher business coaches I was following at the time, and I'm not going to say their name, but they told me to not waste my time with this niche because new teachers and first year teachers cannot afford me, and they're going to have a hard time buying resources from me and taking in my content. Now, I listened to this advice for a good solid year, and what I found was it wasn't working for me. I felt like I was pinned down to these three content pillars that I was kind of passionate about, but not really. And what it did is I just didn't grow quite as fast. Whereas about a year later, where I put my hands up and said, forget it, I'm gonna do what I'm passionate about, and that's helping new and first year teachers with these things. I don't care what this teacher business coach says. What happened was I grew 10 times faster than I did the year before. And I honestly believe and know it to be true that this was because I was doing something I was passionate about and I was listening to myself. So before you take in any advice, please make sure to check in with yourself. And if it doesn't excite you, don't take that advice at all, especially from me too. Full permission to tune me out if what I'm saying doesn't resonate with you and it doesn't feel aligned. So make sure to do what feels best to you. I don't care if you ask in a Facebook group if they think that creating a teacher business on, I don't know, helping, second language teachers is going to be a bad idea, and you get comments about how everyone thinks that's a bad idea and you don't do it. I know amazing teacher business owners online who are specifically talking and helping second language teachers like La Maestra Loca. Annabelle is amazing. I absolutely adore her, and she has a huge and very strong community online of second language teachers. And so I highly recommend that you don't ask other people for their opinions unless you truly value their opinion, because at the end of the day, it depends solely on what you want to do and what you're passionate about. This is a limiting belief, meaning it doesn't have to be true. You can create a teacher business on whatever you want to create it on. You can create it helping, history teachers in middle school. You can create it helping first year teachers like I have. You can create a business, creating cookies to help spread mental awareness and to raise money for, fundraisers and things that you're passionate about. There, there are a million businesses out there in the world, and there are a ton of examples around us. So instead of going in thinking, I can't create a business on this because no one else is doing it or everyone else is doing it, your voice matters. And it's important that we hear your particular take on it. And just because people are only going to follow not gonna follow just you. They're gonna follow a bunch of different people. A great example is my channel in particular. Here at The Present Teacher, I help new and first year teachers. Now, am I the only person talking to new and first year teachers? Of course not. There are some other amazing coaches out there for new and first year teachers, but I don't expect teachers to only follow me. They're most likely following all of us, which is a good thing because we all have different strengths. It's the same as in teaching. As teachers, we have different strengths than our coworkers, and students are going to get different skills and different values from each of us. So there's nothing wrong with adding another voice into the conversation because that's what you're doing. You're adding to the conversation, and the more voices, the better. The more people talking about it, the better. Because if you could help, you know, it's just so worth it. And I feel so sad when I see teachers say that they're so passionate about helping this particular type of people, and then they get told not to do it because it's too niche, or there's too many people, and blah, 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 blah. I fully believe that your desires are going to guide you where you need to go. So go with your gut, go after what you want. And if nobody could be mad at you, if you had full permission to go whatever you wanted, jot down, think about who would you want to help, and follow what feels best. The next common misconception or limiting belief I hear a lot is that it's going to take a lot of time. Now, here's my unpopular opinion on this. Your business can literally take you as much time as you want it to. Throughout my teaching career and throughout my teacher business, I had phases of my life where I was really excited to dedicate more time to my business, and I had other seasons where I didn't have as much time to dedicate to my business, and that's totally okay. The whole idea was I had to get crystal clear on what I wanted from my teacher business and what I desired to do in my business and go from there. So a great example is when I was new, I didn't dedicate a lot of times to creating a YouTube channel, which I didn't have a podcast, all that stuff. I specifically just dedicated time to creating TPT products. And that was because at the time I needed those resources in my own classroom. So I thought, why not post them online so other new teachers can get them too? Then after that, I kind of had more time and I had figured out how to consistently leave at contract time and to not take work home on the weekends. And my husband, then boyfriend, was working a couple hours later than I was. I really wanted a hobby and I really wanted to pour and dedicate more time into my business. So that's when I started my podcast channel, my newsletter. After that, I had even more time after things got easier. I started my YouTube channel. I started sharing more on Instagram and TikTok and everything in between. So my point is, your desires are safe guidance. I am so tired of all the misinformation I'm seeing online about how you have to dedicate a ton of hours and you have to work 80 hours. There have been years like this last year where I dedicated way less time in my business than I ever have. And I've, reached way more teachers than I ever have, but I've also made income-wise way more teachers than I ever have. So, with all that being said, make sure to keep those different limiting beliefs in mind. So, to wrap this up, we talked about how to start your teacher business. So, at first, we talked about should you start a teacher business? Then, we talked about what should my business be about? After that, we talked about some limiting beliefs I often see new and first year teachers or just teachers in general run into when they're starting their very own teacher business. So, with that being said, I'm going to give you some homework because, well, I'm a teacher and why not? So here are some questions I want you to ask yourself before you move on to part two, or you tune in to part two of this creating your very own teacher business series. So the first one is, if nobody could be mad at you, who would you want to help in your teacher business? What are you passionate about? Number two, if nobody could be mad at you, what kind of life would you want to live? Would you want your teacher business to pay for your morning coffee? Would you want to get emails throughout the day from people on your newsletter thanking you for that email you sent earlier in the day? What does your life look like? What do you want? What kind of life do you want to have? And again, don't hold back. Nobody's here to judge you. Take some time to think about it and give yourself permission to take that space and take that time to really think about it, because that's really going to help you step in the steps coming up. So, who do you help? And if nobody could be mad at you and you couldn't get in trouble, what kind of life would you want to live? What kind of business? What does your day look like? What do you want? What do you want your business to achieve? Do you want it to pay your Netflix bill every year? Or do you want to have enough saved so you can, stay home and spend maybe an extended maternity leave with your newborn baby? There are no wrong answers here. And if you start to question whether or not this is possible for you, I want to invite you to go out into the world and find proof that this is possible for you. So a great example for this is, at the time, I couldn't really find very many teachers sharing for new and first year teachers when I first started. So I started looking at teachers who were sharing anything online and were still teaching full time, and I use them as inspiration. If it's possible for them, it's possible for me too. The only difference between you and a teacher who is making their salary, getting all the comments about how great their stuff is, who is selling a bunch of resources, making a huge impact. The only difference between them and you is they have had the time. They started. And they had the time to figure out what works for them to get to where they are now. It's not whether or not you can make it or not, it's that decision to start. So, with that being said, I have a question for you. Who are you going to help with your business? Feel free to drop them in the comments or to send me a DM. I would love to chat. And I know that starting your very first teacher business can be a bit overwhelming. Make sure to subscribe wherever you're tuning in, because in the coming weeks, I'm going to be sharing more information on how you can start your very own teacher business. So, and also to kind of give you a step up in this whole process, I wanted to create a guide that walks you through the top questions I get in regards to setting up your very first teacher business. And I might link to a future podcast episodes and blog posts and everything else, so you can refer back to them whenever you need. All right. That wraps up everything about whether or not you should start your very own teacher business. I hope you found that helpful. As always, remember, we are stronger together, and I'll see you in the next one, Teacher Bestie. Bye. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. I hope that you were able to take away some value that will help you thrive inside and out of the classroom. It would mean the world to me if you could take 5 seconds right now and leave a review on this podcast. And if you found this podcast especially helpful, make sure to take a screenshot of this episode right now and tag me on your socials to let me know you're listening. As always, remember that we are stronger together with all the love in the world. Helena, aka the Present Teacher. See you next time, Teacher Bestie.